this is the last turn, changes a few things, and I'll explain that in a moment. But the Saxons took this. Nobody really seemed to care too much about these cards. The Saxons certainly don't want to destroy settlements, particularly. They don't have a way to hit the Scotty, who are the only ones that are really of concern. So what they did was their raids and an intention of building a couple more settlements. Conceivably, if they do things right and get good rolls, they could end up with 5 more control, which puts them up to their 10. That's their victory conditions. So they'd be meeting them. Of course, they wouldn't be meeting them as well as the Scotty are, but they can't really do much against the Scotty. They could have raided them and tried to settle up there, or tried to destroy something or settle up there or something, but they chose not to. And they did a surprise attack here and finished off a Britain unit. The Duke said, you know what? I'm going second here. I don't really want the event. So they passed, took some cash, and are preparing themselves for a big move so that they can, shift in and maybe hit 2 people's, or more even, stuff that's within range. Unfortunately, their cav is all concentrated here. I should have made sure I had one over with those Federati. There's a lot of little things like, the prestige gains. They require cavalry. I'm used to them just happening, but now I have a horde of Federati. I should have had a cav in there to help them out. However, the Civitati said, first of all, I don't know why the Civitatis went, to tell you the truth. They should not have. Crapola. I thought they had next option here. They do not. I was going to take the event for them and push them down here, but it doesn't look like that's correct. It looks to me like the Scotty might take the event. Let me just take a look at whether the Scotty want this event or they want maybe the other event more. They cannot place any Federati, so this would be an attack against Regni and Contiaci. So they could destroy the Britons here. If they get this one, though, they can do damage at Dombuni and Catavaluni, which is these 2, neither of which they really care about. The question is whether they're going to pass for this one, which they can do more damage with. There's no question. They could just wipe the Britain control out here, but I don't know how much that helps them. Or they could just take a resource by passing. That's the advantage there, is that they're gaining something. But the thing is, they're not really interested in this card or this card, so I think they're not going to pass. I think, crap, I got problems physically right now. I think instead I'm not going to gain these Federati here, which seemed like a great idea, once the Dukes passed. It's like, wait a minute, I can add to my victory conditions, and they could have done the same. Why didn't they? Well, I don't think they're going to give them that chance. I'm going to do a limited command here, and I don't know what. I really have to take a dump. Instead, I did a quick free raid there, picked up a buck. I could have gotten up to maybe $3 if I could have gotten here, but I'm too far away. I can't do the surprise feat there. So I could have gotten like $2 though, raiding someone else. But the advantage here is there's an empty space there, so I can slip into there and gain possibly control of it. Well, not control, I don't care about that, but a fort there and a settlement. And so this goes here in our new card, and then I'm running away for a while. Once each Duke's march or intercept, I don't really care about the name, Mariners by Sea without, but some of them, if they were written in a font that I could read, I would be okay with them, but they're not. Typeface. Once each Duke's march or intercept, Duke's troops may move from one coastal space to another. That's pretty cool, I guess. I don't know quite what the effect of that is. I might have to look it up. Flip one patrolled marker to no patrolled, or to flip one no patrol to patrol. The barbarian may free raid now once. Okay, and that's it. And I'm going with so many damn choices for the dukes on this turn. First of all, the current card they could use to grab Canterbury or whatever, which would give them 2 more victory points and put them very close to being in the win position as well. But they're still well beaten out by the Scotty, which is not good. So it's kind of like, well, I probably can't keep up with them in that kind of race. So I don't think I want to do that. Next turn, I would have, maybe not first choice on this card, this Mariners by Sea, which I could make my units able to move 1 sea zone on either a march or an intercept. I looked that roll up. It counts as my movement as not by roads, which means it's a little less powerful than I would have thought or hoped. I can't continue on from wherever I go, but it does still create a lot of connectivity. That's mostly valuable though on an intercept command. Or I can move and try to reduce the Scotty victory situation, or I could intercept these, which is not terribly valuable comparatively. The problem with intercepting them is that then I don't get to march into here, and I don't get to move these Federati. On the other hand, though, I don't have a hell of a lot of cash, so yeah, everything is just, it feels so constrained at this point. We're so close to the end, and we know we've got to make every point count. And it's a situation I kind of like in games, so I'm not looking at that as kind of like, oh, the burden of it all that I often do. But rather, yeah, this is the point in the game where this feels about like the right amount of angst about my decisions. Whereas coin games often generate too much angst throughout the game to me. On the move, but whether or not I take a feat, yeah, I have to decide these beforehand. But whether or not I take a feat in addition to the move, this was not this turn's, is also a question. Requisition? Well, I've done an error. Remember those forts I dismantled? Those were my money makers on requisitions. I no longer have areas where I share anything with the Civatis except here. So requisition isn't going to give me a hell of a lot of money. So that's out of the question. I could invite, which could strengthen my defenses of an area I'm already in, but I have to have control to invite someone, so that's not terribly attractive. However, I'm also allowed to build, and for $3 I could put a fort here, which would give me control of this. I can't do it down here. I don't have cavalry down there. But I could put one here, and that would give me control. That would get me 1 more victory point. I don't think I'm going to do that. I think my money's too important. Although, I do have this card that could give me $10, which is of some interest. But the other factor that's preventing me from doing it is that if I do it, I give the Civates access to the event card, and then they could grab the 2 victory points for this, and we're essentially equally far away from our victory position as the Civates are, and since we've covered the 2 Scotty places that the Civates were capable of hitting with any strength, I don't really think that it's to our advantage to give them an opportunity to get those points. I think the 1 point that we could get is not worth either the combination of the money and the action. Civates are not going to get an action on this card, So we might as well use this one for something. I thought these took as their limited action a muster, sorry, that's the right term. Get themselves some more troops there. They bought a couple of comitates. Each, I had to look this up, each one costs 1 extra wealth. On their player aid, that's not clear. I don't know how I feel about that compared to the cards, because the player aids, I mean, ideally, you look at the player aid so much that it should specify what you can actually do. There's so many different capabilities attached to each command in this, though, that's kind of weird. That I see that where there's crowding and why they can't maybe nail those down quite as well as they do the rules. On the other hand, once you look it up a couple of times, I've already looked for it before, or at least been puzzled by it, and maybe cheated and paid just 1 for the area, because the way this is worded, it sounds like 1 for the area, but definitely the rules are per unit that you add. It would kind of stick, whereas cards are not just sort of cheat sheets for the rules, although I feel like in coin games this is more important than the rule book and should be as complete and unambiguous as possible. The cards are not that way, and the cards requiring lookups as much as they do is really a problem with the design. Okay, and the next one coming up is the groans of the Britons. Appeal to Aetius, shift to Roman rule with civilian dominance. Whoa! And place any 10 off-map cavalry. Holy crap! Well, that would change everything. And the Civitates just get this option coming up. Nobody has their special card left except the Dukes. They might be able to cancel this card. Well, no, they can't cancel it, but they may be able to delay it for what that's worth. Shift to Roman rule with civilian dominance and place any 10, off-map cavalry among Arabates, Regni, and Catechaki. And it doesn't say that that limits them from out of play. I'll have to look the card up, of course. Roman administrations crumble if Roman rule shift to autonomy, no change to dominance. This is a pretty potent card to be just, boom, the Romans take over again. Holy cow. That completely shifts the victory situation if that goes into play, I think. And we'd have to calculate everything. It might throw the Saxons back into victory. No, they're not that high. It's not going to affect the Scotti, but it does completely rearrange the points that the Roman Britons have available to them. Well, I don't know what I'm going to do about it. If this wasn't guaranteed to be the last turn of the game, that would be kind of an interesting game changer shift option. But looking at the victory conditions, prosperity plus prestige would have to be 75 for the Dukes. Now, chances are, let me look at the play order here. I'm just trying to, decipher what this card means. The immediate look is it's not useful to either. Let's flip through all this garbage that they add to the rules for bots, and then more or less tell you, hey, don't use bots. They've kind of gotten away from bots, at least in anything except pure solo. So the sequence in the epic Imperium phase, chances are prosperity and prestige will be down low enough. Britain control is 20 or less. That will not necessarily be the case, but prosperity and prestige. So prosperity becomes a thing again. And there's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 15, 19, I hate counting this shit, 22, 25. So that would be 33. Which means that won't drop us. Britain control would be 13 minimum, 19. Which means if nothing changes by the end of the epic, we'll be back down to fragmentation, whether we do this or not. The roads aren't going to be restored by this, I assume. I know that there's something that... Shift to Roman roll with civilian dominance. This might be the card they were talking about, but roads are permanently unavailable according to the rules. I should have that there. However, I know that there was some card that triggered some discussion, and this might be the card that might bring the roads back, and the designer basically said yes they do, and it doesn't make sense to me by the wording of the rules. So unless this card has a specific... Did I look it up? No, I didn't. And maybe it does. I doubt it, because I remember there was an ask for a specific exception having to do with the card. But maybe the rules here are different and cause more of a problem. Can bring them from out of play or casualties. Yeah, it doesn't say anything about the roads being unpermanently not maintained. So I would say the roads are still destroyed, even though I think this is probably the card that the designer said, no, read it the other way. I just don't want to... it doesn't even make sense that they would be restored all that quickly, but... you know, rebuilding the roads would be a major effort. And what else do we have here? So what that means is if it's going to drop back to fragmentation, how much is actually gained by triggering that? Not a whole hell of a lot. If it were to stay in one of these two, the Civitatis don't particularly want it because they just drained some of their wealth. So they would be in a I can't win situation. Of course, maybe that doesn't apply at the end of the game. Yeah, this card makes me look up everything because it basically brings everything into question. So, yeah, Roman rule. Okay, so actually only one of the two can win if you don't get to fragmentation. Even in the final epic thing, there's not a penalty for Dux versus civilian dominance, which I find kind of interesting because nobody else is deprived of any victory at the end of game thing. So you absolutely have to get the dominance, which I think is kind of a... I understand it for the per epic victory. At the end of the game victory, I don't, because you're talking about what position are you in going forward into the future, and as opposed to going forward into the past. It feels like it's too big a deal to control that. However, I don't think that there's any chance of, if we get it to autonomy, we're looking at 60 prosperity plus prestige. That's clearly not reachable. For the Civitatis, we're looking at 27 control. We're barely at 20 with what's out there. Now, obviously, there are things that could change control. There's 3 here that are about to change. But getting control up is going to require the building of too many forts and or towns, hill forts, whatever. So I just don't think that card is going to have an effect on play at this point. I think it's just Britain's too far gone for a Roman intervention to help. That's the Civitatis viewpoint. What about the Duke's viewpoint? They get 10 more cavalry. And victory will be assessed at fragmentation, likely. Likely. It's possible that it won't be if they do too well. But if victory is assessed at fragmentation, those 10 cav could do quite a bit of good, especially since all my cav is down here. That's giving me some southern cav. Right, Arabates, Regni, and Cantiaci. Yeah, that's down here. So that's giving me quite a force to do something with. Now the problem is I can no longer attack Civitatis towns without affecting my prestige in a bad way. Scotty kind of fucked up. They should have taken, they went with raid and surprise. They should have gone with the ransom. But I really wanted to go in here. Why? I don't know, because it's $2 instead of 1. I could have gotten a $1 raid anywhere, or did I get them all? Yeah, I had run out of places I could raid without surprise, which is really kind of the fact. No, I could have sailed down to here and done it. Yep, I screwed up. Okay, so by doing surprise, I thought, gee, I'll be able to get a good roll, maybe be able to wipe out this fort or whatever. Instead, what happened was I got a crappy roll, and these warbands were able to wipe me out before I was even able to raid anything. But I've got some extra cash on hand. Now the Saxons get, if they want the event. Otherwise, they probably pass to grab that card. I'm not sure what they want to do with it. They might want to restore the Roman roll. The problem for the Saxons is they really need to go. They need to get a full command, which means they either need to go first or somebody has to pick the event. And that doesn't look likely on either of these cards. Whether or not I assess that the Civitatis are not going to do this, I'm going to say, is a good question. So I'm going to roll a normal die, not this stupid thing. This 1 through 6, I should replace these with regular dice. They're so annoying to me. The Roman numerals on them. But I'm going to say on a 1 or a 2, they incorrectly assess the situation and will pass. Otherwise, they're going to go forward because, I don't know. They're gonna go forward and use this. I don't know what they're gonna do the limited for because they can't really return. That doesn't help them. Very hard to find anything that I can do that would be useful for the Saxons, actually. Looking over all their commands, the only one that I find that can even barely be valuable right now is raid. And raid is kind of questionable. I'd love to raid here because otherwise this horde of troops probably isn't going to get me control of that space. Instead, what I'm going to do, because I can't get here, even without surprise, even with surprise, yeah, it would be possible. But I'm not settled yet. Unfortunately, I only have a small handful of pieces anyway. So I'm going to actually raid here. And that will allow what? That'll allow me to bring potentially more pieces into here for a settlement that I probably can't get control with. But it's the best I can think of. So yeah, I'll just do that. So the Civitatis did a move with a raid. Now, a pillage, whatever. They couldn't pillage here because they ended up taking control of it. If I'd only sent a couple of units in, I wouldn't have the force to wipe out the Scotty space. And, oh, actually I don't have control because there were these there. Never mind, I forgot about those. Let's drop that back down. Drop these down by 2 and take the cash. Great. So actually that worked out pretty well. That put it on the Dukes. The Dukes aren't going to get anything on this card. I could have done a singular attack somewhere that might have been of some value, but instead I threw all those cav down from the event, pushing that up there. I don't know, you know, how that's going to play out, but there's a fair amount of deck left. Well, a fair number of cards left in the Epic, I think. Diffid, replace one Scotty Settlement and all Scotty Warbands in Demitai with Civitatis. Ooh, and that's set up for a blue turn. Green may have to pass to prevent that. Let's see. Demitai. I don't know where the fuck that is. It's over here. Probably not a big deal. The other side of it, Irish Dynasty. Scotty plays 4 warbands and a settlement in Demitai. Probably don't want to let them do that, because their settlements seem to be the thing that's preventing them from winning. That means they may not take this until Epic Warbands with no settlement are halved in battle. Yeah, I think we're going to end up passing instead and taking a victory point. We'll see what the Saxons do. There's no reason for them to hold off for this card, which they probably won't get. So I think we'll be seeing a Saxon return and settlement combined. Indeed, the Saxons are up to 6. Still not really feeling like I'm in striking range. Pushes these back into play. Brings this card up. And the next one is Cedric. Cerdic. Federati adopt host culture in one region with Britain control. Replace all Federati of one nation in color with comitates and or militia. I don't know if that's an issue anywhere. It's dukes that are in power here, and they don't have control either. And Britons adopt barbarian culture in one region with both Federati and Civitatis strongholds. Free one nation of Federati markers and replace all Civitatis strongholds and troops with corresponding pieces of that nation. That could be very dangerous, but again, I don't think they're sharing. No, they are here. Nope, not Federati. Yeah. There's a danger of the Federati. Oh, no. These are down here. Okay. So what is going to happen? The Dukes are not going to get a command, so they can't trump in here. And we wanted the Scotty to try to seize territory, I think. But maybe they want to defend themselves, because things look a little ugly now. The Scotty indeed took their little free settlement off the event. The Civitates launched a number of attacks here. These were with muster, so they actually built some militia at cost, and they actually had to pay some wealth because they ran out of cash. They did a couple of musters here where they actually had control. Here where they did not, they couldn't muster, and you can see it ended up that the Scotty were better off fighting a field battle for that rather than fighting at the stronghold. And then down here the raiders were wiped out, and you can see there's some cash that changed hands. Let's see what our next card is. Ventus Lurum. Cities spread profit, add 2 prosperity to each of 2 regions with a town, and build an enemy, battle an enemy at one of its strongholds as if coup de main with a roll of 1 against that stronghold, which of course means you probably can avoid the Escalade. I don't know where we are in that case. Was Cerdic interesting? No. Which probably means another set of Saxon raids coming in, I guess, trying to get the settlement number up. They don't really care about their prestige or whatever it is for them. What they care about is, And yeah, what they care about is getting settlements on the map right now in places that will give them population. And, you know, if they could get one here, that would be great, but that's not easy. Here, it looks like that's open and actually raidable. Trying to see where else is of interest, but so that's probably where they're going. Of course, then the Dukes, with their huge army, actually has a capacity to do something, and that may be battles to knock people out. But maybe not. Yeah, it looks like they're going to do something because their next card sucks. By the way, I have not played with the Britain or Dukes victory conditions. Right now, they're way up in the stratosphere, you know, and prosperity and everything like that has to be taken into account. My assumption is that we're going to be dropping back down to here, so I'm keeping these in place because they're more meaningful. However, if Britain control starts coming around 20, is it? I don't remember what it was. The autonomy level. I do have to make a check on that to see if it slips down. So Britain control of 20, but that's including the Dukes control. So that's right now at 916. So it's not that far below. And they count together, which means actually this is Britain control right now. I'm keeping track of it as if it's going to fall into fragmentation, but it may not. It's like, it just seems more sensible there. As to something to just interject outside the game, one reason I haven't been playing very much, there are many, but flooding started again, dealing with the sump and all kind of crap like that, like, just... I'd have plenty of time to play. I just don't have the mental capacity in general to face this, so I've been drowning myself in computer game. But same reason that I started it the last time before it started flooding was actually trying to avoid other things. So I don't know, but it upped the value on the computer game for me as opposed to doing this. Hard for me to remember the Trump-in capability. I probably should have done it. I went too long, let the Saxons do their big thing, and then I realized, ah, shit, I don't have anything interesting here. All I got was a limited command, and I'm not gonna get a shot on the next turn. That limited command ended up knocking out a Scotty location. So they're actually kind of falling behind. They're down to 1 plus their off map that nobody can touch. However, that's only 5 points. They're right about their victory level. I think if the epic ends, there's still a fair amount left. But let's see what we got coming up. The Thames. Hired muscle. Play Saxon Federati and Caravulani or Arapates. Tribal Wars. This is the sort of standard crap that allows you to screw around one way or the other, which is kind of interesting. And what are we sitting on? We're sitting on, I think, nothing terribly interesting. I did move this. Trader inside the walls, battling it, yeah. Yeah, I think we're going to see the same kind of stuff happening with the Scotty trying to recuperate their forts or settlements and just get themselves back on the map, doing the settlement action. And, you know, as long as they're going first, and we're beginning to get to the point where we might be seeing that. It's in the bottom 4 or 5 cards, so I think 5 cards. So they just don't want things to go too much further. I don't know if there's a way of preventing the Scotty from winning at this point, to tell you the truth. It just doesn't feel like it. The troops all showing up down here, unless somebody can stumble into an automatic victory. The Scotty are able to bring one settlement back. A little bit more victory points. Civitates passed because they get first action on the next card, which allows them to do one with a feat. And the card after that is Allen's. What? I guess for the Romans. Some Steppe Warriors train a couple of cav per fort. From a train will now place 2 cav per fort instead of 1. That's pretty cool. A little iffy at this point in the game, as like, yeah, some Britain warlords are able to recruit Allens to come in. That doesn't make sense. The other side of it is removing the cavalry to casualties, which is pretty appealing, to tell you the truth, if you're worried about the Dukes, or if you're worried about the Dukes kind of evening things out. However, I don't know that anybody is terribly worried at this moment about the Dukes on either side. It's like, you know, yeah, the Saxons probably a little bit, but it's, everybody's just kind of looking at how can we kill the Scotty, and the answer seems to be we really can't. They've got so many damn points banked. And their end of turn victory. Let's look at this again. Make sure I understand where we are. End of game victory. Saxon Renown, Scotty Renown, minus 65 plus 5 per settlement. Oh, actually, yeah. So that's the 20 points to make it. So they have now 3 settlements, so they'd be at 60. So they're at like minus 6. I don't know if that's that much below what other people are at. I have the feeling somebody might actually be able to eke out a victory. But the Scotty are in danger of being able to get the automatic victory before you can count those. And I'm not sure anyone else is going to be in quite that position. It's just that these things cost 5 each. The Civitates are going to be, let's see, fragmentation is 27. No, minus is 16. Yeah, and they're just worried about Britain control, which doesn't look like it's terribly good right now. I don't know if I've got these numbers right. I probably should re-look at them, because let's see, we got 3, 4, 6 Britain control, and I've got like 9 marked here. Yeah, I think I better regenerate the points. It's quite so bad as I thought. This had been removed or maybe bumped or something, and that actually is 3 more points. So you would think that would come to 9, but something was wrong. What was wrong? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Huh. Yeah, I had the numbers right. I just apparently removed a counter I shouldn't have, and I'm not sure why that happened, but I actually had them right. All right, I think I'm going to take a little break for a bit. But we're getting damn close to the end here. Unfortunately, a combination of work, personal angst, and flooding. The flooding not really affecting me, except that, hey, I want to go see it. The river overfilled its banks, and it was really beautiful. I went for walks the last couple of days. Has interfered with my playing. But anyway, I'm looking at the next card, and I pretty much have decided there's a conflict in the game, you know, in terms of we're looking at the Civitates' choice right now, and whether or not they want this event that would conceivably give them a couple of victory points. Let me see, Atrabate is down here. They can't take this because there's just too many of those Federati there, but they could take Cantavelli. Wait, is that it? Cantavelloni. Let me make sure I've got the right place. Is that this? That's actually up here. They could take that, and that's worth 3 victory points. I had thought it was the Canterbury down here. It's not. It's this one. And that's very attractive because all that's there is Raiders. Now, it could be taken away from them, but not only do they have to prevent the Scotty from winning the game to have a chance, this is the last turn. This is where, you know, their place in the game lies, no matter what. So they can't simply rely on, hey, can we possibly stop the Scotty from their automatic victory? We also definitely have to consider our own place in terms of where we are, and I think those 3 victory points are important. Dukes did something similar. They did also padding their own points, essentially, because they had a lot to gain this turn. They did a battle event with retaliation. They used the retaliation, 3 more prestige. You see their points went way up. And 5 renown off the Saxons, which doesn't really matter. That's here. Okay. I forgot about that. And again, you got to pay attention to all the different points because there's a lot of prestige changes that happen with in the consequence of battle as well. I think I got them right. But they knocked the Saxon Raiders here. They knocked the Civitates out of here, taking some points away from them, as well as giving themselves the prestige for, you know, winning the battle and taking the stronghold. And in both of those cases, they got a prosperity in the area. And then over here, they used their Federati to help them wipe out the Saxon citadel there. They took control. They already had taken control away. But they managed to get a lot of prestige off that. And you can see they're above their victory level now. And remember, if I'm going second, I can always trump in and go first with this. I'm the only person who has that. I may not need the extra money. And yeah, we made a pretty good game there. These slide over. This goes here. This card becomes available. It could do some damage to the cav. I don't know that anybody wants to do that. And we have St. Patrick. All ransom rolls go down by 1, or all ransom rolls are increased. Neither of which is terribly interesting at this point in the game. Those are, you know, long-lasting effects that could really help, you know, a victory here, but right now we're more concerned about trying to get our last settlement on the board so we can get the automatic victory possibly, or if not that, having more points. And we have to worry because the Dukes is above their automatic victory point and we are not. So now it looks like we might lose even if we would have more points in the endgame victory conditions. Again, you know, it's tight. Somebody's going to win. Who's it going to be? Well, and do remember this is going to drop all the way down. Probably. Oh, good Lord. Because we are in... I gotta keep looking at this. This is so painful. Britain control is 30 or less, or total prosperity and prestige. Okay, so those numbers I don't know about right now. I almost feel like I should dig out the extra counters or something and mark these extra points somewhere on the board. I do have a few extra pieces as to what the targets are for at least maintaining these layers. So if we can get it down to oh shit. Oh, there's a big problem to having done this that I forgot about. For the Dukes, which is that prestige drops when we drop back from Roman rule. They're going to lose, so does wealth, but wealth isn't that important. But we're going to lose half of our prestige, and our prestige is what's got us over the level, and that happens before the victory phase. So we actually have to worry about trying to get these, which means maybe we want to worry about these points at their current level. Oh, crap. I've been entirely worried about, hey, trying to match the victory points there, but I forgot about that. And this is probably the hardest part of the game, is there's so much game state, so much changing of the victory conditions and everything. And it's all trackable, but the tools at hand, and even, the tools that are presented with the game don't give you enough information to keep track of everything that you need to know, because you have to at this point, I have to know what the fallback points are and what the victory conditions are at each. This is a weird situation. Normally you'd be at fragmentation at this point in the game and pretty much stuck there, except that that event was triggered and now everything's in chaos again. But this is going to happen a couple of times in every game. We have already seen it happen, where it was possible that somebody could have fallen into victory due to a drop in control level, and crap, it's just, there's too much complexity in assessing the board state for this as compared to the other coin games. I think it's very, very easy to fall into a victory this way. And the alternative is to be constantly recalculating and looking and thinking about that. And that's where your attention is going to be on is, oh, can I trigger a victory through this means? And some people might be very good at that. I'm not so sure who, what, why. But this doesn't matter a hell of a lot for the barbarians, because even the Saxons, who victory conditions change for, they're so far away from their 30 prestige. But that might go up, because we damn well are going to want to return. Scotty, who in order to win the automatic victory need to get another fort on another settlement on the board, took us okay, so let's talk. The Saxons returned, and they came close but didn't quite get control of this. They might be able to through some other means, whatever, but it was a gamble. They could get 1 point if they pretty much assured if they went for that, but 1 point puts them 3 away from victory. 3 points puts them 1 away from victory. The 3 points definitely seemed more appealing, so they went for that. And it also weakens the chances of this remaining high. Now, for whatever that means. The Scotty felt like they had a choice between going second on this card, where the event's not going to happen, or going second a little earlier. They want to go second a little earlier, and they did a little raid. They did not sack the fort. They could have, but they would have ended up with only 2 pieces left, much less likely to get the settlement. The settlement's the important thing. It was worth paying for. Let's move this, and then it could be over, by the way. We're near the end. Arthur, finally. Shift to military dominance. Ooh. All current casualties to... Oh, it doesn't matter. All current casualties to available. Doesn't really make a difference. Until epic battle removes cavalry to available, not casualties. I mean, you can keep rebuilding. That's about the only thing. Personal rivalry escalates. Shift to civilian dominance in one space with both comitatus and cavalry. Remove them all. Cavalry to casualties. Okay, well, it is time, because this is perhaps the last card that the civitates and the dukes are going to get to play off of. Although the dukes will probably hold out for this one, depending, because to figure out where we are. Whether or not this is going to drop, what's going on, and that's going to take some analysis. Yeah. So the first step I did was I calculated the total prosperity. It's at 10. Prosperity and prestige would have to be at 55 or more to hold us where we are at Roman rule. If we could get it down to 30 or more, more than 30, I'm sorry, it would have to be above 55. If we can get it to more than 30, which looks potential, okay, then we would drop down to autonomy. But that halves my prestige, and my victory conditions would be set at 60. Well, obviously 60 is impossible. So I'm going to be looking at half my prestige pretty much no matter what. So I'm not going to work too hard on that. We might fall into that. But that's just sort of the Duke's position on this. What about the Civitatis, though? Because maybe they want this to remain. Well, let's look at what theirs are. They want Britain control to be quite large. Well, Britain control right now is at 7. Crap, because I lost this. 7 plus, is there, how much Duke's control is there? 8, 9, 10. Okay, it's at 10. This is not Britain control. We don't have a fort there. I'm looking to see if there's anywhere where the Dukes and the Civitatis are fighting over control. And by sacking this fort, I actually weakened the chances of this maintaining. So I don't think this is going to go much above 10, which means we're pretty damn far from victory as well. So we're not going to be aiming for this. So I'm going to reset things to where they were because we're aiming for the fragmentation victory stuff. The Civitates did a march command and moved in to grab control of 6 more population. That drives their value getting close. Basically, they don't think they have a chance of winning anymore. And this is what's kind of happening, is everybody's kind of started to concede. The Scotti are going to win. We're fighting for second now. We're not going to be able to stop them either if they don't get the unless we can get an automatic victory, right? So since they're not set up for one, although they may get one next action, although that's unlikely because they're last on the card, and I believe the Dukes are going to pass to prevent them from getting an action. This was our best option. We did a settlement, I'm sorry, an invitation, and brought more Saxons on the board. It's safer to give the Saxons an extra population than to give the Scotti an automatic victory, so we can't invite Scotti into play. And we moved into positions and we took points away from the Saxons, who have almost no population under their control. And then the Dukes, because they're first on the next card, are going to pass. But we're not in fragmentation anymore, and I should have been paying attention to this. I don't know how long ago that was, but the Dukes could have been spending Civitatis money. I don't think that they've done much with their own cash. So it's not that big a deal. But now the Civitatis money's down to 0. However, by passing, we give them 3 more bucks. And this goes, we shift Arthur, and it's the end of the game. The Tears of Epona. Reduced population of Texto Verde. Are we getting to here? We are not going to get to this. So we can just say screw it to that. But we do have to go through some of the mechanical effects, notably the Annona phase, because we got to pay off those Federati that are on the board. And if we don't, that's a problem. So the Civitatis don't have to worry about this one. But they have $6 they got to pay. They don't have $6 in hand, do they? Nope, they barely do. So they will be able to pay theirs off. And the Dukes, well, the Dukes could use Civitatis' money first. That might be to their advantage, but it might not, because the Civitatis have grabbed control of a couple of areas. And I've got to decide. Am I going to steal Civitati money? Yeah, because it's all the way up at Roman roll. I can just do that. Interesting. Okay, and we've hit the victory stage. The Dukes did hit the Civitatis, again, in the hope of maybe I can place better than the Civitatis do. It looks like we're about even, actually, because we need one more point. But yeah, we used Civitati's money. We're down to fragmentation. The Saxons got control of that because of it. And now no one's at an automatic victory, which means I believe we immediately go to the highest victory margin win. So the Dukes is prosperity plus prestige. Dukes control plus prestige minus 17. So we're the difference between these, which is equal to the Britain control. Does this flip over to Civitati's control? No. The Civitatis need 16 from their Britain control, which is, again, the same amount, whatever that was, 7.6 points. Okay, so they're both at -6. The Saxon renown, okay, Saxon control minus 10. So they're at -4, so they're in second place, tie for last. And we know that the Scotti are in the lead. Renown, minus 65 plus 5 per settlement. Well, the minus 65, we get down to minus 50. We're actually at plus 3 for a pretty resounding victory that we've managed to pull off. This stuff doesn't go back because the card ended things. What really happened was this, and we jumped in there. Wow. There's a lot of chaos to keep track of in this game. I don't feel like you can play it terribly well unless you play it fairly regularly. I'm pretty sure my second play of this, if I were to do one right away, wouldn't be significantly better. I'm getting better, but there's just too much to keep track of probably for my little brain unless I was playing it opposed and focusing all of my energy on it completely. Okay, trying to keep track of all the different factions. It's still fun. I would still enjoy soloing it. I'm more frustrated on camera than I would be in reality. For the Ancients type thing, I definitely feel like Falling Sky, I gained a lot by playing it through once. I would have gained a big step forward by playing this once, but I don't feel like I would have played it terribly more confidently. I just would have realized the extent of how painful tracking everything was going to be. So I guess maybe the most contentious thing I did, not necessarily on purpose, well, this never got played, but holding off so long on this is probably the thing that I got the only real beef for. That was an interesting situation because I think if I had played it earlier, we might well have seen the game end too early with a Britain victory probably. Because the Dukes lose half their prestige when they have it happen. However, if the prosperity was fairly high, I mean, let's look at this. The differentiation here, prosperity plus prestige is 55 or less. If you have almost no prestige, you're then at 55 when that shift happens. You're not going to fall into a victory easily at that point. With the autonomy. However, it's quite possible that the Civitati control will still be fairly high. And they go down from 36 to 27, which I think it would be quite possible for the Civitatis to win. Would it be possible for the Dukes to win? Actually, I think that's the situation we may have been in. I don't remember which one we were in. But it's also possible for the Britain control to drop down to 30 population or less, and there's still a fair amount of prosperity on the board. Of course, that prosperity is going to get sliced down when you come off Roman rule, right? Because Roman rule is the only time when you have 2 layers of that. So yeah, I think it's pretty hard for the Dukes to win with the collapse of, or you know, with the drop to autonomy, because they're getting hit on 2 things. The 2 things their victory points are generating from. The prosperity that's sitting on the board, that's going to be essentially halved. And remember, that's only 80. So even if it was all there and it gets halved, it's down to 40. You have to have a lot of prestige, because that's getting halved as well to make it to drop into a victory. So that could not have been the case in my game. However, the Civitatis could well fall into a victory. And the Civitatis, I think, were in the situation where they would have if it hadn't just happened to end up in the military dominance. And I mean, and obviously players are going to try to conspire to create that situation if they're aware of it. But I could see that sucker slipping up on you. And I'm not really sure that by holding off on this, I made that more likely. I think I actually was able to establish the Raiders a little better by waiting longer, rather than flipping things in. Now, what about the possibility of this versus that? That's a good question, because that's where the decision really lies now looking back at it. Because if the Civitatis' wealth is significantly higher than the prestige, when you hit the Imperium phase, and it looks like that happens after the shift. Wow. In which case, it's very likely that this card, or that the fall to autonomy, is going to drop the game into a Civitatis victory. Just looking at the order here, I may have screwed this up. I may have done both at once. Would that matter? Let me think. No, this definitely should take place before that. I may have screwed that up, in which case the Civitatis probably should have won much earlier. And I think there's a real danger of them falling into a victory early in the game. Once the game slipped into the fragmentation state, it felt like everybody was a lot more balanced. That there were a lot less the chaos that chart inspires, in terms of not real chaos, but predictable decisions that could be calculated and everything, but that are just beyond my desire to calculate, if not my ability. In over four players in a solo game, but probably opposed to. I would not want. It depends on the type of game you're playing. If you're sitting there and you're ultra serious and you're counting everything all the time and you're just really concentrating on winning, yeah, I could see being in that situation. And I've been in that position at cons and stuff where I feel like, oh, I gotta focus. I've also been in situations, both at cons and more likely in normal groups that I'm playing with, where I'm getting along with someone and having a good chat with them, and I'm not focusing that much on the game. And, for most games, that's okay. For this one, no. I think no matter what, you have to be really laser focused on what the hell all these state changes that could happen based on this primarily are going to be. And also the danger of the cards, the danger of what someone could do by trumping in and all that, especially your own capability to trump in. That's hard in the solo. That's probably one of the more painful things. There are also a lot of these. They cause problems for me. Once a bunch of capabilities start getting thrown out there, it becomes tougher to remember everything that's going on. Now, I find if I'm playing a game solid straight through solo, in kind of 1 or 2 sittings, I can kind of keep track of them. If I'm playing the way I normally play solo, which is walking away from the game and playing a turn or, you know, a few cards a day or whatever, yeah, I can't remember these. That's not necessarily a critique of the game, except that I'm closer to that when I'm playing opposed, because again, I don't have that, you know, desire or capability to be focusing on on keeping track of every single piece of information on the board for most games. You know, this is up there in terms of how many things you have to balance and keep track of with like an 18xx game. At the few moments where an 18xx game, you really have to be aware of everything. Here, I don't feel like it's a few moments. I feel like you have to have so much awareness so much of the time. Now, the problem with the 18xx is you don't know which moments you have to be really aware of, always. Sometimes things are happening and you're not paying enough attention and you miss your opportunities. So, I don't know. Anyway, I think I would enjoy this a lot more not on camera, as with so many games, and just fiddling around with it myself. I certainly enjoyed Falling Sky a lot, just fiddling around with it myself, and it made me happier playing it on camera too, because I was more prepared. But you know, I got too many damn games to be taking that time with each. I kind of wanted to do that with this. I chose not to, because I also kind of wanted to get it to the start getting the videos up. I'll be back with a review, even though I've probably said a lot about my review feel. In case I forget it in the review, the damn pieces and stacking, cubes and weird shaped pieces and little Federati counters and all that, that's a painful design choice. I don't know if there was anything that could happen better. Certainly, you could have pieces that when you pick them up, they don't go flying off and knocking other pieces just because they're unwieldy in the hands. The cubes are fine. These things are fine. Not that you ever grab a fistful of these. But the damn Raiders, the most likely thing you're going to grab a fistful of, they're designed to shoot out of your fingers and knock things over.